Today we're actually going to be starting early, and reason being is because we actually have a very extensive workshop for you guys today. Like I'm gonna get y'all right. Okay. Today we're focusing on record producing B2B. And that involves, like I said, we're getting into the nitty and gritty of the record industry and the music industry. And we're gonna find all of your money. We're gonna find all of your assets. We're gonna piece everything together. We're gonna be auditing things. So this is super duper exciting. Let's see what there we are. Okay, so let's do our little housekeeping just to make sure that we cover all bases before we get into this workshop, because once we get going, we get going. Okay. So as always, go and stream the music. Also, one of the really cool things is last time I spoke to you guys was on Thursday. So I said to y'all, Friday night, I'm going to the music studio. So I did about 7 songs Friday night. So that's very exciting. So that means that not only are we going to be doing record producing B2B and getting your music right, but we're going to be releasing a project during these workshops. So in this month, we are going to release a 7-song EP/album called REM. Okay. I have all 7 songs done, locked and loaded, ready to go. Very excited. Okay. Amethystlist.wordpress.com. That's where you go for all things Amethyst Amaris. And you'll find the lyrics, products. This is where my music is going to be migrated over to. This is where the paintings are at, the whole catalog, everything, the gallery, all of it. Tropic of Qualia, Tropic de Qualia is the AI website, and that's for mature audiences only. And then we also have Panacea Cafe, which is the holistic wellness blog that is an introspective tool and resource center. Okay, and I think that we have that covered. A few things. We didn't do the newsletters for this weekend. I've kind of put it together in my mind where I want to do the newsletter in a particular way on WordPress. So that's going to be coming out actually at the end of this week's workshops. Okay. I know I keep pushing it back, but you guys will see this week why we're doing that. This particular replay, I think I'm going to make this replay more more cost for it for this particular one. We also have a workshop coming up on Thursday this week where I will be having a guest speaker. Tomorrow, I'm not sure if we're going to have the guest speaker come out for that particular one. I think we're just going to do an introduction, and then I'll have the guest speaker for tomorrow's workshop next week instead, the following Tuesdays. But Thursday, we do have a guest speaker, and after we do like a kind of like little run of the mill tomorrow and do like a little run through, I will feel confident to tell you guys who that is with and what we're going to be covering. So I think that we can get it started. Oh, yes. And the Harmony workbook is going to be coming out at the exact same time as the newsletters. Okay. All right, record producing B2B. I know that we did a songwriting and beat making workshop, and I kept telling y'all record producing is something completely different. Cutting records is very different, okay? And that is being an executive producer, and that is releasing the projects, getting it out there, okay? And I'm like I entitled it right here. This is a public service announcement with Fifth House of Creativity Inc. Okay, guys? It is a public service announcement. Um, just the other day, even I saw a DSP giving out incorrect information. And then they even paid one of my friends to advertise that information. I'm not exposing anybody, but it's not cool. So we're going to get the information out there. There's only so much that we can cover in this particular workshop. So as I go through this, we're going to navigate what questions we'll still have arise, and then I'll note down what we should cover in the next workshop as well, along with what we're planning on doing next time. But any kind of holes or anything like that, make sure you leave it in the comments. Ask me any questions. Um, I'm trying to be as thorough as possible. There are so many different nuances when it comes down to the music industry. Um, what we do is we speak with Harmony GPT, that is my chat GPT, and we have conversations with it. I input all my knowledge, all of my experience into it. And then what we do is we create a cohesive dialogue so that everybody knows what's going on, and I'm able to kind of like convey my information in an easier way to you. But that being said, there are always going to be holes in it, and I can't cover everything. But as you'll see here, we have like 50 something slides, and we're going to be doing this workshop. I was very, very eager to do this one as strictly a replay and not invite anybody on it, because I wanted to just have an extended time and really, really dedicate full time to this particular topic. Because once we get this introduction out of the way, everything else that we do moving forward is going to make so much more sense. Okay. So what we're covering today: music industry glossary, royalties across borders, DIY, and what's next. And these are just like the broad spectrum of what we're going to be covering today, okay? The music industry is ever evolving, so let's navigate the basics today and be ready to evolve with the inevitable change, but lobby for your boundaries and rights with each stride so that your freedoms are forever valued and respected. All of this AI art that is in this presentation is my AI art as well. Okay, and this is my own text. So unless I say it's Harmony GPT, it's my own text. Okay. Granular rights management. Okay. So rights splitting, understanding and implementing detailed splits for each right associated with music, performance, mechanical, synchronization, and digital performance across different territories. This requires robust contract management and often the use of specialized software to handle complex splits among multiple stakeholders. Territorial rights and management. Different countries have different rules regarding music rights. For instance, the US does not generally recognize neighboring rights for traditional radio play. Unlike many European countries, tailoring rights management to accommodate such differences is crucial for maximizing global revenue. And I have these little tidbits like sprinkled all throughout. But this is like a general concept, and then we're going to get into the glossary of things. So you're going to see points being made, and then you're going to see glossary and an explanation for what was said. So that way that I'm also catering to people that understand the advanced side of the music industry and are eager to learn even more, but also uncovering the basics for everyone that is just getting into it as well. That way everyone can learn at the exact same time. So for us Canadians, and this does not apply to Americans, okay? And leave a comment below if you do want me to get into the American royalty system. I do know that. For the sake of me being in Canada, and a lot of the people that have gotten these replays are Canadian, I want to address Canadian rights and royalties and the flow chart of that. Okay. This particular one comes from the CMRRA and is from their website. And when you click onto this, you would be able to find all of the information that is available. Okay, so we have here neighboring rights organizations. We have Sound Exchange, Distribution Company or record label, Sync Licensing or record label, and SAG AFTRA. Okay, AFTRA, not ACTRA. Okay, so this flowchart's very, very easy to understand, but a lot of times people think all they do is apply for SOCAN and release their music with their distributor, and that's it. There are so many different routes of getting money that you have to apply for, but there's also so many routes where you can accidentally double dip and start pulling out too much money, and then you actually get your money stuck in a loop. So it's really good to be very clear as to who you are using your services with and what you're using them for. Okay. Okay. So I was debating if I'm going to go through each one of these on the glossary, and I don't think I'm going to, but what I'm going to do, as always, the presentations are available. Okay. But we have words like performance royalties, mechanical royalties, synchronization royalties, neighboring rights, streaming royalties, digital performance royalties, like direct licensing, copyright, music publishing, record labels, digital service providers, DSPs, music rights organizations, MROs, private copying levies, music licensing companies, user-centric payment model, pro rata payment model. And then we also have over here in advance 360 deal, breakage fee, catalog music, churn rate, compulsory license, cross collateralization, cue sheet, digital rights management, a DRM, distribution fee, entertainment lawyer, formal rights and exclusivity agreement, and ISRC, International Standard Recording Code, master rights, merchandising rights, and then moving into the realm of, oh, we have a few more terms. One second. So we have payola, performance rights organization, PRO, publishing deal, recoupment, royalty audit, sampling, shelf fee, a sync agent, territorial rights, ticket bundling, track out, underlying composition, venue royalties, work for hire, A&R, that is artist repertoire or artist and revenue. And then we have a breakout single, a cap table, and digital locker, liner notes, musical supervisor, reversion right? And unrecouped balance. So, like I said, if you have any of these that you really, really want to get into and stuff, go ahead and leave it in the comment. But to get into each and every single one of these is going to take up your whole life. Okay. Alrighty, so glossary of music revenue streams. Okay, so these are the things that you're going to actually be making money from, and also the possibilities of making money from. Okay. So album sales, streaming royalties, performance royalties, mechanical royalties, synchronization royalties, digital performance royalties, live performance fees, cover song royalties, music library fees, session musician fees, producer royalties, music video monetization, okay, publishing rights, master rights, ringtone royalties, print license royalties, video game royalties, neighboring rights royalties, brand partnerships and sponsorships, fan funding and crowdfunding, merchandising, YouTube monetization, private copying levies, experiential events, and educational workshops and master classes. Okay. And as you can see, we have all of the information right following it. If you have any more questions about those things, I wanted to give a very general like layout of ways that we can actually make money in the music industry before I get into what all the royalties are or any more advanced things. The reason why I want to provide that outside of just providing a general glossary of music industry terms, I want us to become familiar with the many ways that you would be owed money for particular services, particular things that you do, and what you get paid for versus not what you pay other people for you to do. That's very, very important. A lot of times, when I see people getting to sync licensing, I see them paying so that they can get exposure to be on television when that is something that literally pays you. Okay. Let's get clear on these things. And there's certain rights organizations that you work with in order to collect your money so that you're not having to do all the excessive work of getting that money. Okay. So technological advancements in royalty collection. So there's blockchain and smart contracts, that implementing blockchain technology to create transparent and mutable records of music rights transactions, smart contracts can automate royalty distributions, reducing the time and potential for errors and ensuring that creators are paid more swiftly and accurately. Okay. Digital fingerprinting and content recognition technology utilizing advanced algorithms to track and identify music usage across various platforms more accurately, ensuring that all due uses of music are monetized. This is critical for capturing data in real time, streaming environments, and user generated content platforms like YouTube and TikTok. Okay, so that's when we put the YouTube identification in. And again, we have some lovely anime art from my animes. So let's talk about the black box. Okay, so you may have heard about it, and you may have not heard about it. Okay, but we're gonna talk about it. Okay, the black box royalties and international collection. The term black box in the music industry refers to royalties that are collected but not distributed because the rightful owners cannot be identified or located. These funds accumulate when tracks are played and royalties are due, but metadata errors or incomplete information prevent the correct distribution. This is a common issue in international music rights management where different countries and systems may not always align perfectly, causing royalties to go unclaimed. From what I understand, with the Music Modernization Act going in place of 2018, but it went into effect in 2021, I do believe that you have access to these funds in the black box up until 2025. So artists, please go ahead and check it out and see if you have anything in this black box here of royalties. Speak to your different people. We're going to go through the list of all that's owed to you, start reaching out to these people to get your money right, and that would be SOCAN, okay, up here in Canada. Collecting international royalties to navigate this, artists, songwriters, and publishers should register with PROs, ensure registration with performance rights organizations in their home country and any other country where their music is played. Okay, so that means that whatever PRO you go with has to have a relationship internationally. That's why SOCAN is so empowering, because it is in several different countries and has many different relationships. There are other ones in Canada, but go with the ones that have the most connections. And if you even go ahead and find out that they aren't in a specific country and you want to be in that country, there are actually ways for you to reach out to the teams in those countries and make a connection so that you're getting paid as well, and that your music, is being played out there and you're paid for that music to be played out there. Okay. Utilize global collection agencies. Some agencies specialize in tracking and collecting international royalties, providing a crucial service for artists who distribute their music worldwide. And this is really why it's important to audit it. Look at where all your streams are coming from, where all the money is, and then you get to have these conversations with these different agencies and see what money has been collected. Okay. Issues with metadata and symbol usage. I tell this to artists all the time, and people think I'm capping, but let's go over it. They always think I'm capping about things, okay? Metadata in music is crucial for tracking and managing royalties. Metadata errors can result in royalties not being properly assigned to the rightful owner. Common issues include incorrect song titles, misspellings, or variations in the song title, artist names, different spellings, or pseudonyms not linked to the artist's main profile. Symbols and metadata. The use of symbols or special characters in song titles or artist names can cause issues because not all systems process these characters consistently. For instance, a heart symbol might be read differently by various databases and digital platforms, leading to discrepancies in royalty collection. Why avoiding symbols in metadata is advised. Compatibility. Many digital platforms and databases may not recognize or properly index symbols, leading to inconsistencies in how data is stored in search. Searchability. Users searching for music might not use special characters, reducing the visibility and accessibility of songs. Standardization. Keeping metadata simple and free of symbols helps maintain uniformity across various platforms, ensuring data is accurately matched and royalties correctly distributed. To avoid these pitfalls, it's advisable for artists and their management team standardize metadata across all platforms, ensuring all information is accurate and consistent, and to avoid using special characters and symbols in metadata entries. These best practices help ensure that royalties are properly collected and attributed, reducing the risk of funds ending up in the black box. So I'm not going to read all of this one, but what I wanted to do was actually provide another example as to why using symbols in your song titles and your metadata may not also work is right here. I leave an example of why some satellite radio, okay, using symbols in song metadata can lead to technical disruptions, especially in systems like satellite radio, which are part of complex technological infrastructures, okay? Issues like the Mazda and Tesla outages illustrate how special characters or symbols and metadata can interfere with software systems used in vehicles. So I put this information here, okay, just to kind of drive home why we don't use symbols. I won't focus on it too much, but there is actually a lovely video right here explaining that I posted into the presentation why hundreds of Mazdas tuned to 94.9 broke simultaneously. Okay, so I want to be able to provide all the information. This will explain to you why you should be very careful with the metadata. I've done it too, but there's a reason why if you have particular symbols in your music, why you're not getting radio play, okay? They won't play it on certain radio stations. Some might do it, but then they break things. And guess what? When radio stations do things that they're not supposed to, they can get shut down, they can get fined, they can so many things can happen to them. So they will avoid that by any means necessary, okay? Alrighty. So here, like I was saying, in Canada, we have different royalties than we'll say in the States, okay? I'm not going to get too far into this because we've kind of spoken about it already. But we have different societies that we go to. We have their performance royalties, mechanical royalties, synchronization, streaming, neighboring rights, and print music, digital performance royalties, private copying levies, and grants and funding. I hear people say all the time that in Canada, because we are not in an opportunity zone like in the United States of like living in a LA or in Atlanta or New York, there's no doubting that it is an opportunity zone. So being there does does help your career and it helps pivot you in visibility, right? But there are many benefits of being up here in Canada and making music here. There are more funds that are actually available to us. And I'm not going to say which big artist it was that was exploiting the grant system. And then they ended up shutting down a lot of projects and everything in 2018. And we saw the struggle of people not being able to access grants and funding in that time period. And it had a direct relation with the violence that was happening within the music industry as well. So there are a lot of benefits in Canada of us accessing more funds, but it does heavily get exploited by these artists that have these big label backings or people on their team that are guaranteeing they get access to all these things. Their government and private grants and their funding and all these things, they go ahead and get these grants written, they get all of the paperwork done, and that is not wrong. It is just many of us are not educated on these things to claim it for ourselves. And also, some of us don't have the marketing budget to exceed those exact same limits. But we're not all supposed to be competing, even though they make the system really make us compete with one another. But if you do this work and you exercise best practices to then be able to stake as much claim of ownership in your music as possible, you can be paid a very, very handsome amount without exploiting anybody. Okay. Then here we go. I wanted to also give information, and again, this will just be in the presentation for looking later, but there is a difference between the terms artist, performer, okay? These are completely different roles, and when we're looking at rights and ownership, we got to realize artist, performer, two different things. Featured artist, something different, okay? So composer, something different, a producer, something different, a label owner, something different, okay? And all of those things gain particular rights and considerations as well, okay? And all of that information is made available there, okay? So well, here we go. Let's get into this one. Distributors and DSPs, okay? So these are some of like the basics when it comes down to that. And then let's look at, here we go. Sorry, let me put this on here. Let's look at the fact that royalties, international versus American versus Canadian, are very, very different. Okay. I want people to kind of have this understanding because we are in an advantage of being here in this particular country when we're making music. And I don't want people to even downplay this huge aspect that I've known of the music industry since I was a kid in this industry. Okay. For many, many years, is the fact that many American labels will go ahead and they will have their artists come up here and record their albums here. And there's reasons why that occurs. And I want to explain those reasons here. Okay. International royalties can vary widely depending on local copyright laws and agreements. Countries often have different rates and methods for calculating payouts to artists and rights holders. Okay. The US has specific laws that govern how royalties are calculated, including mechanical royalties from sales and downloads, and performance royalties from radio play and public performances. Okay, so I want you to take that into note. Okay, including mechanical royalties from sales and downloads, and performance royalties from radio play. Okay, Canadian, similar to the US, but with its own unique systems and additional grants and funding opportunities for artists through organizations like SOCAN and Factor. Okay, neighboring rights. What are they? Neighboring rights refer to the right to publicly perform or broadcast a sound recording. They are paid to the performers and producers of the recordings. Why do Americans not receive them abroad? The US does not recognize neighboring rights for foreign performances, and as a result, American artists and producers do not earn these royalties when their music is played in many other countries. Conversely, artists in countries that do recognize these rights receive payments when their music is played in those countries and abroad. Other countries, like the US, there are a few other countries that do not pay these rights internationally. It's crucial to know which countries follow similar practices to understand where revenues might be lost. Okay. So, understanding neighboring rights and US radio royalties. Neighboring rights. These rights refer to the royalties paid to recording artists, performers, and record producers when a sound recording is played on radio, television, or public venues outside of the selling of the actual records. They are recognized in most countries around the world, but not universally. US situation. In the United States, unlike in many other countries, there is no federal law that mandates the payment of neighboring rights for terrestrial traditional radio play. This means that performers and producers do not receive royalties when their music is played on US radio stations. The US only pays these types of royalties for digital broadcasts like internet radio or satellite radio, not for traditional AM, FM radio. Impact on US artists abroad. Because the US does not have neighboring rights for terrestrial radio broadcasts, it does not participate in the reciprocal payments that exist between countries that do recognize these rights. Essentially, US artists lose out on royalties that would otherwise be collected and paid to them when their recordings are played on the radio in countries that do acknowledge and pay neighboring rights. Why this matters. The absence of neighboring rights for terrestrial radio in the US affects American artists in several ways. Financial impact. Artists miss out on a potential stream of revenue that artists in other countries commonly receive. International reciprocity. Since the US does not pay these royalties to foreign artists, American artists are similarly not compensated when their music is played on the radio in many foreign markets. Policy discussions. There's an ongoing debate in the music industry, legislative circles about the US should adopt neighboring rights for terrestrial radio. Proponents argue it would ensure fairness for American artists both domestically and internationally. So like if your music is being played on Sirius, as we know that is like satellite radio, that is online radio and everything like that, you would be paid for that. But say that your music is being played at a local station in Detroit, you're not getting paid for that. And there is a lot of those stations all throughout the United States, and these American artists are not getting paid for that. And the thing is, Canadian artists are getting paid for that particular royalty. And correct me if I am wrong, because from my research, we do get paid for this in the United States. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, though, in the comments. Okay. So, qualifying for neighboring rights. Okay. Okay. Canadian advantage. When an American artist records in Canada, they can potentially qualify their recordings as Canadian. This makes them eligible for neighboring rights royalties when their music is played on the radio in countries that recognize these rights. Financial benefits. This approach can be particularly lucrative as it opens up additional revenue streams from radio plays in countries that pay neighboring rights, which the US does not collect for terrestrial radio plays. And I don't believe a person would do this as an independent artist, but they can do it under a vanity label as an independent artist. And that a vanity label is basically like if you use your name or a vanity name for a label. Okay. Canadian content CanCon requirements, broadcasting standards. Canadian radio stations are required to play a certain percentage of content that qualifies as Canadian, known as CanCon, by recording in Canada and possibly meeting other criteria, like involving Canadian producers or using Canadian studios. American artists might also help their tracks qualify as CanCon, increasing their airplay opportunities in Canada. Increased exposure. More airplay not only leads to direct royalty earnings from Canadian stations, but also enhances the artist's visibility and market presence in Canada. Okay. Comparative financial wellness of Canadian artists. So we've heard like, how we can be strategic to kind of work our way around that as American artists, okay? So, comparative financial wellness. So, earning on American radio, reciprocal royalties. While American artists don't earn neighboring rights from their home country radio plays, Canadian artists do benefit from these royalties when their music is played in countries that recognize these rights, including their own. This includes earnings from American digital radio platforms that do pay these royalties. Okay, so remember when you also have your digital radio platforms playing the music, there is a royalty on top of that, and that is the neighboring royalty. Okay, so you get your digital radio royalty, but then you also get your neighboring royalty from that. Okay, so strategic releases, some Canadian artists specifically target American markets to maximize their exposure and earnings, benefiting from both Canadian and international royalties. Impact on financial health, diversified income streams, okay, and policy benefits. So like I said, we're going to kind of breeze through some of these things, okay? Implications for policy and industry practices, okay? Advocacy for change. Okay, advocacy for change. These disparities often lead to discussions and advocacy for change in the US copyright and royalty laws. The music industry and its stakeholders, including artists and labels, are increasingly pushing for the US to adopt similar neighboring rights for terrestrial radio to level the playing field. Okay. If they went ahead and like straighten this out, and all the money that people would be having, and it would be basic income as well. So here we go. Alrighty. So now that is kind of like the 101 basics of what our royalties look like, what royalties might look like internationally, what they look like in the States and everything like that. Um, I try to come with a Canadian perspective. A lot of us in Canada accidentally mess it up and we look at everything as an American perspective. And we have so many tools available to us in Canada. And again, like the UK has its own thing as well. Australia has its own thing. All these countries have their own thing. So I encourage you to look at it for your country. And this doesn't mean to not look at all the other countries. You have to look at it as an international thing. You have to take an international approach. But as much as we think of the macro, we have to think of the micro. Okay. The concept of turning music publishing catalogs into bonds and securitized assets has gained traction in recent years, especially as the predictable revenue from streaming platforms offers a more stable return on investment. This financial innovation involves the transformation of royalties from iconic music catalogs into financial products that investors can purchase. The idea is similar to how mortgages or loans are bundled into securities and sold to investors on the financial markets. Here's a closer look at how and why this is happening. And before I get into this, like I said, we went over some advanced steps. Some people are using the blockchain. We have different types of record deals that are happening right now. We're having so many different moving elements. We're having people release their catalog, so then their catalog is getting streamlined into AI technologies and their likeness is getting streamed into it. There are so many components that are happening right now. So let's think of all the ways that are making money. And then we're also going to get into, should we be taking that? Should we be taking that? Okay. Don't let the large numbers confuse you. Okay. Background. Stable revenue streams. With the advent of streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music, and others, revenue streams for music royalties have become more predictable. The stability has made music catalogs valuable long term assets. Okay, examples, high profile deals. Icons like Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell have sold their song catalogs for substantial sums. For instance, Bob Dylan sold his entire songwriting catalog to Universal Music Publishing Group, and similar deals have been made by other legendary artists, and that's like with Hypnosis and all those other groups as well. Okay. These deals often result in the music rights being managed by the purchasing entity, which can leverage them across various media and platforms to generate continuous revenue. Okay. Financialization of music royalties, securitization. The process involves converting future royalty payments into a form of security similar to a bond, which can then be sold to investors. This provides the artist or rights holder with a lump sum upfront, while investors receive a steady return based on the future income generated by the music royalties. Advantages for artists. For artists, especially those who may not be actively producing new music or touring, selling their catalogs can provide significant financial security and the ability to monetize their legacy more effectively. Advantages for investors. Investors can get to own a piece of music history with a predictable return thanks to regular streaming royalties. This is seen as a relatively safe investment compared to more volatile markets. Market impact, broadening investment base. This trend has also broadened in the base of investors in the music industry, from traditional music companies to private equity firms and institutional investors. This influx of capital can further stabilize and grow the industry. Okay, so there are very, very big positives of this. Artist independence. Financially empowering artists through such deals can lead to greater independence and the ability to focus on creative pursuits without financial pressures. Okay, criticisms and concerns. Control over artistic works. Okay, some critics argue that such deals may lead to excessive commercialization of artistic works or potentially compromise artistic integrity, especially if the controlling entity prioritizes profit over artistic considerations. We can maybe say that the Drake song with the Tupac AI and the Snoop Dogg AI is a perfect example of that. Long-term financial impact. There's also a debate about whether artists might ultimately earn less over the long term than they would have by retaining their rights. The transformation of music royalties into bond-like assets is a significant development in the intersection of finance and the arts. It reflects the changing landscape of the music industry, where traditional revenue streams are being augmented or replaced by new economic models powered by technological advancements in media consumption. This model is likely to evolve as the dynamics of music production, distribution, consumption continue to change, offering both opportunities and challenges for artists and investors alike. So, before we get into this, I like to show people. Now, I'm not going to play this whole video for you. What I'm going to do is we're going to play a particular part. Now, what I just explained to you, we're seeing artists selling their catalogs for a couple 100 million or just 100 million. I want you to look at this video. And life is holistic, where we can look at examples of all things to teach us, okay? Why the Sioux are refusing 1.3 billion. Now, this is 14 years ago. I'm going to go to a particular part of video and let me pause it. Let me speed it up so that we don't get flagged here for playing it.
Security or better. There's no danger of loss. 30 years later, it's worth $1 billion, so it's not a bad return.
But the Sioux say that money is far less than what the land is worth. The Black Hills are a major draw for tourists, helping to promote an industry that generates over $2 billion of economic activity every year for the state of South Dakota. And there are still questions on the best way to distribute the $1 billion. Any compensation money for the Sioux would mainly be distributed on a per capita basis.
If you've got 100,000 Sioux and $1 billion, you're talking about 10,000 apiece or something. That goes pretty fast.
That type of plan is totally unacceptable to the Sioux tribes, because when you give out per capita payments, the money is gone in a year or two, and the tribes still end up with nothing to show for ancestral lands.
After more than
I wanted to show that to kind of give you guys a little perspective, okay? Now, I want you guys to look at that. Now, we're talking about music, okay? We're talking about our assets, but we got to think about it like land. We got to think about it like it's ours. It's our entity, it's our energy. It is something that is abundant. It is something that's ever flowing, okay? Now, the Sioux tribe, they said that they were going to be given $1.3 billion lump sum to buy their land, but it makes them $2 billion annually, okay? The reason why I want you to look at your royalties and audit all your rights and look where all your money is being owed, okay? If you looked at where all the money was being owed, okay, and you properly navigated that, how much money are you really making annually before you go ahead and give out all these rights for a lump sum, okay? Now, moving into this next video, and you guys can watch my reaction to this one. I love this video so much. It's one of my favorites.
The tradition of great performers from, and I really want you to hear what I have to say, the tradition of great performers from Sammy Davis Jr. to James Brown to Jackie Wilson to Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly. The story is usually the same though, you know, these guys work really hard at their craft, but the story ends the same. They usually are broken, torn, and usually just sad, and the story is very sad in the end, because the companies take advantage of them. They really do. And Sony, being you know, being the artist that I am, at Sony, I've generated several $1 billion for Sony, several billion, and they really thought that my mind is always on music and dancing, and it usually is, but they never thought that this performance.
And I can leave that one there. I also put another video of him addressing Sony and Tommy Mottola in this as well with Al Sharpton. So I wanted to provide that context, okay, as well. And let's talk about it here, okay? Sioux Nation and Michael Jackson's experiences underscores a vital concern regarding the long-term financial impact of selling to artistic or cultural assets. It highlights a broader issue about the value of maintaining control over one's creations or heritage versus the immediate financial gain from selling them. Sioux Nation's rejection of the settlement. The Sioux Nation's refusal to accept 1.3 billion settlement for the Black Hills in South Dakota is a prominent example of a group valuing sovereignty and cultural significance over a lump sum payment. And like I said, they make 2 billion annual. Why would they accept 1.3 lump sum, right? Always do the math, okay? The Sioux believe that the land, which they consider sacred, holds far greater value both culturally and potentially economically than any immediate payout could offer. They argue that accepting the settlement would legally terminate their claims to the Black Hills forever, a price too steep for a one-time payment. Michael Jackson's dispute with Sony and Tommy Mottola. Similarly, Michael Jackson's public feud with Sony Music and its then president Tommy Mottola in the early 2000s was rooted in his belief that the label was exploiting his work without fair compensation. Jackson accused the label of being a racist institution that profited immensely from artists while systematically underpaying them, particularly artists of color. His battle was not just about his personal earnings, but also highlighted issues of fairness, control, and respect within the music industry. Jackson's stance suggested that the potential earnings from retaining rights to one's music could vastly outweigh the benefits of any contract offered by a record label, especially if such contracts were exploitative. Broader implications, okay? These cases illustrate the complex calculations artists and communities must make when deciding whether to sell their rights or maintain control over their assets. While immediate financial security is tempting, the potential loss of future earnings control over creative output and cultural heritage can be significant. Artists and communities are increasingly aware of these dynamics and are seeking better terms that allow them to retain more control and receive fair compensation for their work and heritage. This ongoing debate in the music industry and similar ones in other cultural and creative sectors signals a growing recognition of the need for more equitable business models and practices that respect the rights and contributions of the creators and communities. Okay. Some more AI art that will be in my graphic novel books. Okay. So if you are watching this and you're wondering how you can support artists, when you're looking at all these things and you're seeing that all these laws are put in place that do not favor us, here is your navigation, okay? The Music Modernization Act was put into place, like I said, I believe it was 2018 when they started it, and then they put it into effect 2021 January. And so, like I said, lobbying for the rights, educational efforts, direct support. So, supporting financially, supporting by sharing digital support, okay? And then also educating people on this, spread awareness, okay, about this crazy, crazy industry that we're in. And the fact that everyone is so underpaid when literally there is money being black boxed right now that could be feeding everybody. Okay. So international considerations, same thing, right? Advocacy, advocacy, advocacy. Okay, some more AI art. Okay, so Nielsen SoundScan and BDS, which is not BDS like, divest, not that, broadcast data systems, okay, were indeed crucial components in tracking music sales and radio play respectively, but they changed, okay? So shout out to Jason, the student artist that I mentored last year. I'm literally sending him this workshop right away because he has to apply for the rights because he co-produced a song with me. So we had to go through all of these aspects again. We went through it last year, but it's evolved and changed, right? So let's go over it. Here's what happened to them. Nielsen SoundScan and BDS. Nielsen SoundScan was a service that tracked the sales of music and music video products throughout the United States and Canada. It was widely used to compile the sales figures for the Billboard music charts. BDS, broadcast data systems, tracked airplay based on actual radio broadcast and was used extensively to compile radio charts for Billboard. Transition to MRC data. Okay. In recent years, Nielsen's music related assets, including SoundScan and BDS, were rebranded under a new name, MRC data. After their acquisition by Valence Media, or Valence, I think it's Valence though, which is a part of MRC, MRC data took over the functions previously held by Nielsen, SoundScan, and BDS, continuing to provide comprehensive data services to the music industry. And here's like a little bit more information about how they track it, how they navigate your airplay and everything like that. Okay. Now, a lot of times artists, um, like all they care about is the charts, and I'm not against that. Okay. So if you are about the charts, there are certain things that you got to do. Okay. So getting onto the Billboard charts in 2024. Okay. When I first started discussing this and talking about these things with people, everybody was just like, you're going to mess up our bag, telling people, giving out this information because a lot of people exploit being an artist manager or an A&R or working for a label by the information that they gatekeep and how unreadily available that information is. Okay. But I feel like better practices would be put in place if we all knew what the heck was going on. Okay. So this is how you get on Billboard. Don't let people tell you anything else. Okay. This is how you can start charting. And in Canada, we will go over this as well. Connect Music has its own system for how you can get your plaques and how you achieve your plaques and everything like that. It's very, very different from the United States. And it's a lot lower numbers. So you can really achieve it in Canada. Okay. How MRC data tracks music consumption. So sales tracking, streaming, and radio play. Rules for qualifying on the Billboard charts. Sales. Both physical and digital sales are counted. For digital sales, Billboard has specific rules about the minimum price point for sales to count towards chart positions to prevent chart manipulation through heavily discounted sales. Streams from recognized platforms contribute to chart rankings. There are different weightings for paid subscription streams versus ad-supported streams, with paid subscriptions generally having a higher impact. Radio airplay. Songs played across radio stations are monitored and contribute to chart positions based on frequency and reach of those plays. Release timing. Billboard has a weekly cutoff for tracking sales, streaming, and airplay, which typically ends at midnight on Thursday. The charts are then published on Tuesday. Multiple versions of songs. And that is why artists will release their projects Thursday at midnight, Friday, leading into Friday, because when you do that, what it does is it starts to count all of those streams up into the week, and it gives you more time to have a whole cohesive week of streams, okay, and plays. Multiple versions of songs, different versions of the same song. Example, remixes, live versions are often combined and treated as one for charting purposes, as long as they meet certain similarity criteria. Okay. Additional factors, bundling. And this is something that Justin Bieber, Travis Scott, and all them do. They're bundling their packages, okay? Bundling. Billboard has specific rules regarding bundling of music with merchandise or tickets. These rules have evolved to ensure that chart positions are reflective of genuine consumer interest in the music itself rather than ancillary products. Okay, chart specific rules. Different charts may have specific rules. For example, the Billboard 200 album chart has different criteria compared to the Hot 100 song charts, particularly concerning what constitutes an album versus a single. Okay, strategic considerations. Artists and labels often plan releases and marketing efforts to maximize first week sales and streaming numbers. As a strong debut on significantly impact long-term performance on the charts. Understanding and strategically planning around MRC data tracking methods can be critical to chart success. Navigating the Billboard charts in 2024 is not just about creating great music, but also understanding the mechanics of how music consumption is tracked and reported. MRC data plays a crucial role in this process, providing the industry with detailed analytics that help shape marketing strategies and distribution. Okay, very, very important to keep track of all of your stats, and it helps you navigate. Okay, more AI art. Okay, so we have a few more things to cover. Like I said, today's extensive, so we're going to go over our usual time. Okay, so when publishing a book, and so here, as you guys have seen in my previous workshops, Birth of a Genre has sheet music in it. Okay, so there's royalties, there's money that comes from that. Okay, so let's go over that. When publishing a book of sheet music or lyrics that includes songs from various albums, it's important to manage mechanical royalties through the appropriate agencies in the respective countries. In the United States, this is typically handled by the Harry Fox Agency, now part of CSAC. CSAC got them in 2015, I think. While in Canada, the Canadian Musical Reproduction Rights Agency, CMRRA, takes on a similar role. Here's how this process works, incorporating both entities. Mechanical royalties per song calculation. For each song included in the book, mechanical royalties are generated for each reproduction of the song. This means if your book includes 4 songs from 4 different albums, each song generates mechanical royalties independently for each sale of the book. Okay, so your book sale, and then you have the royalties of each of the songs put on top of that. I'm telling you guys, if an artist, say like The Weeknd, decided to release a book of his sheet music, if it was original sheet music that he owns those rights to, he could release his sheet music and his lyrics and his composition, and then he gets a percentage of that. Okay, and he gets his sale of the book and he gets his royalties on top. Okay. Collection in the US, the Harry Fox Agency, now operating under CSAC, manages the mechanical licensing for these works in the United States. They ensure that royalties are accurately calculated and distributed to the respective rights holder based on the agreements in place. Collection in Canada. In Canada, CMRRA performs a similar function, handling the mechanical licensing and royalty collection for songs reproduced in publications like sheet music books. They ensure songwriters and publishers are compensated for the use of their music in Canada. So benefits of publishing sheet music or lyrics: direct sales revenue. Both physical and digital sales of sheet music or lyric books generate direct sales revenue. Diverse income streams, including multiple songs from different albums, diversifies potential sources of income, as each song can attract different segments of your audience and generate its own stream of mechanical royalties. Considerations for global distribution. Rights management. It's crucial to ensure they have the rights to publish each song in book format, which may involve negotiations and agreements with multiple rights holders if the songs are from different albums or different publishers. Okay, always talk to your people. Don't just jump in and do something because it's a great idea. Make sure that you are speaking to all rights holders of the songs. If you're like me and you are the rights holder, go for it. accurate reporting and tracking. Maintain accurate reporting and tracking of sales for each song within the book to ensure all royalties are correctly calculated and distributed. This is vital when dealing with multiple songs that may have different rights holders and publishing arrangements. By managing mechanical royalties through organizations like HFA, CFAC, and CMRRA, songwriters and publishers can effectively monetize their music and in printed form, ensuring they receive proper compensation for their work across different regions, and yada, yada, yada. Okay. See, I'm giving you guys all the tips on how to make money off of your music, okay? I don't want nobody tell me you can't make money off of music after I show you all this, okay? Benefits of posting your lyrics on your own website, okay? Control over rights. You retain full control over the copyright of your lyrics. There's no risk of inadvertently granting rights to third parties, which can happen on some platforms that claim rights to posted content. Okay, direct monetization. You can monetize your lyrics directly. This could be through advertising revenue, exclusive access memberships, or donations from fans who wish to support your work. Audience engagement. Posting lyrics on your website allows fans to connect directly with your music. This can enhance their experience and encourage deeper engagement with your other offerings like merchandise or concert tickets. SEO benefits. By posting content on your website, you improve its search optimization, drawing more traffic to your website, which can be monetized in various ways. Okay. So here, I'm not going to read this one because we're getting a little long here, but like always, the presentations are going to be available below. What this one is a conversation in regards to lyric websites and how they make money, their revenue streams, how they're supposed to make money, okay? And the claims and rights that they have and best practices for songwriters, okay? So like I said in the previous one, what happens is when we go ahead and we post our lyrics, now that we understand our lyrics have value, okay, financial value, and then if you go and you post your lyrics on websites that say, I own the content that you posted, do they own your lyrics, right? Posting your lyrics originally on Instagram, does Instagram not own your song? There are so many things that we should be careful of, especially people always think, oh yeah, well, my song's not that big, or wait until your song is big and blows up and you didn't take care of any of these steps. And then maybe sampling didn't get cleared, you got to pay that. Maybe this didn't get owned, and guess what? You don't even own it. Maybe Facebook somewhere owns it. OnlyFans owns it. There are so many things that you can avoid by just following best practices and getting ahead of it. Okay. So next time on Harmony, okay, how much do DSPs really pay? Okay, workflow and your rights. So that is when we're going to start actually getting into how are we looking at auditing and how are we able to organize everything, all that we looked at, where all can I pull from, okay? And then cataloging and distribution. Like I said, we're going to be distributing REM. So it's very exciting. Okay, every May, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Okay, May workshops. Okay. So for the month of May, we have creation stories with the genealogy resources on Thursdays. Okay. And we did an introduction last week. This Thursday will be week 1, but it was a long, cohesive introduction. There's so much information to provide for all of these workshops in particular. I knew that these ones would be far more extensive than the last 2 months. Okay, record producing B2B on Mondays, which is today. Okay, like I said, monetize every nook and cranny of your musical catalog, lyrics, hard copies, intellectual property, the merch, and royalties. Okay, and artists finding financial freedom in trees on Tuesday. That is tomorrow. I am very, very excited. Like I said, I won't have Shaw's pull up for that one in particular because I want to just do an introduction and really explain what is this process of reforestation with artists that we're doing. And here you'll find the resources in this presentation as well. As always, she met Gwitch. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you so much for being a part of this lovely workshop. Record producing B2B. Like I said, I think I'm going to charge quite a bit for this replay. I'm going to put this up on YouTube public instead of having it unlisted. I want to charge a lot for the replay and invite people to make donations. I want this information to be readily available for people. A few years ago, like I was messaging people, and people know that Live Nation's about to screw us all over. I was sending out petitions. I was doing the absolute most, and I didn't get that many people sign the petition. People didn't listen, people didn't care. And now people are dealing with the consequences of that years later. There's only so much that I can do and only so much that I can teach, right? And the thing is we got to spread these messages. We got to put the information out there. A wool is constantly being pulled over the eyes of artists and creatives, writers, everything, every form of creation. Even like with painters don't even know how they can like get blue tickets, like they don't even know how they can do that to really get their sales up there and get their money up there. So there is so many ways to access things, and not always work. But what it is at least trying, and at least getting it audited, getting it in a way where it's starting to pay you in an automated way, so that you don't have to keep navigating and being on top of it. Like for myself, there's a gap of every 2 years that you apply for it. Myself, I gotta apply for my songs from last year. I don't always stay on top of it as much, but I do stay on top of it. Like if they asked me to show the catalog of my music from 2020 to 2022, um, all the way to 2023, I could do that. I could actually really do that. And I could show people my catalog list and everything like that. And then I'm able to send it to different pros. I'm able to send it to different agencies so that they can easily go ahead and input my information and kind of consolidate it and look at it and like, okay, well, she didn't get paid here and she didn't get paid for these, so they got to collect it. And you can only do that but when you get organized and you get really clear as to what your assets are. And we'll do that. We will go over that because most of the time we don't even know what our assets really are. Anyways, Chimigwich, thank you so much for coming out. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.